Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming with another Rico report. This time we have the July 15th edition. Hopefully I can get it out before July 15th so I don't look crazy. Right now it's 9:45 p.m. Eastern time. Let's see if I can finish recording this and editing this before 12 a.m. before I look stupid. But either way, we have a lot to talk about. First of all, we got a little bit of an update of more players that were there at the practice with all of the offensive players that we already talked about down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We already know Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, and a couple other guys. But then Terry McLaurin expounded upon who else was there, and so I'm really excited to talk about that and how big that is. Also, we have a couple of clips of people working out, like we got a Quan Martin clip, we got some Chase Young working out things, we have Emmanuel Forbes throwing passes like a quarterback at a younger talent camp thing. We have Chase Young working out. We have a couple of debate topics to talk about. We have some stats and rankings that concern the Commanders. Like there's a ranking of the top 10 defensive coordinators. Where do the Commanders rank in that with Eric Bieniemy? Also, Bucky Brooks ranked the best duos in every position group. Did the Commanders land any of the top titles? Also, Sharp Football Analysis ranked their top offensive lines 1 through 32. Whole bunch of random stuff. Updates. The disrespect that Darryl Green got with a certain post made by Sports Center, and just a bunch of randomness. But before we dive into all that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the mess out of that subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that so that you can get a notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I'm coming with Rico reports. We're still working on more film sessions for this rookie class. Working on Ricky Stromberg next. We already did Emmanuel Forbes and Quan Martin, so stay tuned for that. Probably get the Ricky Stromberg one done tomorrow, especially if I get enough time to do it. And make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, even though the Commanders have somewhat of a dip period right now, Street Scores will not. And also, training camp starts soon. I'm gonna update y'all on that information as well when the rookies report, when the veterans report, and then we'll start to get a lot more Commanders content coming from the Commanders themselves, and I'm gonna cover all of that, breakdowns of every practice, everything. So make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content. Without further ado, let's get it.
You tell your family you can be a commander.
All right, so first of all, like I foreshadowed in the intro, Terry McLaurin broke down the Commanders players that all worked out together in Fort Lauderdale a few days ago. He said it was like 13, 14 Commanders. He said Terry McLaurin, of course, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, Brian Robinson. We already knew those. But then also Marcus Kemp, Jared Patterson, John Bates, and Jonathan Williams. That's a really interesting group of people. Would have been nice if we could have had some offensive linemen out there doing something together, even if it's not a full-blown 7-on-7 type of thing. If they were just out there practicing certain things, gaining their chemistry together, that would be wonderful. Because again, like I've already said, the offensive line is not going to be a top half of the league talent wise, but we're gonna have to just stay healthy, and we're gonna have to gain our chemistry, and Eric Bieniemy is gonna have to call and scheme the right plays to where it masks the weaknesses of the offensive lineman that we have. That's the formula for our offensive line being a successful offensive line going into the season. But if we're talking pure talent, it's not like it's the most talented offensive line, but they can still go out there and be successful if, most importantly, they stay healthy and gain chemistry with each other. So I would have loved it if they were doing something together, even if it weren't with the rest of the offense, if they were just somewhere in the DMV just doing offensive line stuff together. But I understand training camp starts soon. I mean, rookies report in 6 days, so things are about to kick back up. I understand why a lot of people just want to spend as much time as they can with their family before they just dive into the football season, and then they're not able to really be around their families that much until the end of the season. I mean, once we start diving into training camp in like 6 days, within like the next week or two, these guys won't have like an honest chance to spend a lot of time with their family, like go to Disney World with their family or anything like that, until like January, February, honestly. So I understand why a lot of people aren't, but I wish it would have been more. But at the same time, I've already discussed why, like Brian Robinson being out there with the receivers working on his receiving game, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Sam Howell giving them tips and pointers and things like that, coaching him up to become a better receiving threat, why that's so advantageous for us. Then of course Sam Howell working on his chemistry with all the receivers. But then to add Marcus Kemp in there, Jared Patterson, John Bates, and Jonathan Williams, I love that. Most notably like a John Bates, because he's a really good blocker. We already know he gets busy with the blocking, but if he can improve as a pass catcher, that's gonna work wonders for us. That's gonna be such a huge advantage to us. The more dual threat tight ends you have, the more unpredictable your offense is, which means that the defense that you're going against is in a worse situation, which means you should be able to do whatever you want to. You want to run the ball, do it. You want to pass the ball, do it, because the defense can't focus on any particular thing just based on the personnel you have out there. Same thing with Brian Robinson. If he becomes more of a receiving threat, then defenses have to honor the fact that he's a receiving threat. That'll make it easier for him to do what he really wants to do, and that's run the ball, because they'll have to take people out of the box worrying about him being a receiving threat. And the same thing with John Bates. He's a blocker, but if he can add some pass catching potential to him, some receiving threat to him, that's going to make it more difficult for defenses to guess what the Commanders are doing on offense, because usually if John Bates is out there, we're more than likely running the ball because he's a better blocking and pass catcher. It's not automatic. It's not a guarantee that we're going to run the ball, but if he's a dual threat tight end, more of a dual threat tight end, at least a better receiving threat, that's going to open things up for the offense and make it harder for the defense to predict what we're doing, making things easier for Eric Bieniemy, Sam Howell, and this entire offense as a whole. Also, Terry McLaurin talked about how this all went down. He said it was really the quarterbacks, Sam and Jacoby. What's been cool is they've been working hand in hand. I think Jacoby brings a veteran presence, so he kind of knows what the offseason looks like, trying to make things come together. So he's like the facilitator. They were telling us before we even got out of OTAs that they were going to hit up everybody and try to meet. It was a good time. Went to dinner at night and everything. So it was a great bonding experience. They got to work on some chemistry. I absolutely love the leadership that Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett are showing. And there's not like this deadly, drama-filled, unhealthy competition that they have between each other. It's like a really good competitive nature thing that they got going on, where they're more so helping each other than competing against each other. There's some competition, of course, that brings out the best in both of those guys, but it's a healthy relationship that they have going on. I love the fact that they're collaborating together to bring the offensive players out to practice with them in Florida. Again, I'm not exactly sure why they picked Florida, but I can't really blame them. And then also you have a clip of Quan Martin looking really good, really crisp, looking really explosive. One of the drills that he was doing somewhere. I don't know where it was. I don't even think it was in Florida with the other guys, but here's the clip right here.
Go. Break. Drive. Good. Good.
Yeah, that man wasn't playing, dog. That man, Quan Martin, he looks like a day one strong contributor, starter, impact player. I'm really excited. I feel like our first 2-round picks are going to be really good for us and again, really contribute early on. These are not guys that necessarily have to develop, and it's going to take a minute for them to be able to contribute anything meaningful. I think they're going to come right out the gate week 1 against the Cardinals, making plays and locking people up. I'm really excited. Also, Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, we got to see like the outfits they were wearing at one point. Like Jahan Dotson had a shirt supporting Caitlin Clark, and I think that's Terry McLaurin wearing some V-Loam. So, you know, just a random picture so you can see that. And then also, like I said earlier, Emmanuel Forbes was out there coaching up the next generation of talent, and he was helping like some high schoolers or some college players, whatever. They're definitely younger though, and he was like kind of helping them with their camp, and he was even throwing passes, and he looked pretty good throwing some, maybe like an emergency quarterback type of thing. Here's the clip. Also, we have a clip of Chase Young working out. I'm not exactly sure who may be with him. It looks like he's pretty much by himself. Here's that clip as well. And then speaking of Chase Young, I saw somewhere on the internet, on Twitter, like there was like a debate between who's going to have more sacks between Montez Sweat and Chase Young this year. And first of all, I think it may have been started by Big Doug, so shouts out to him because he's just like me, a Commanders fan for the NFL, but a Georgia Bulldogs fan for college football. So, hey, man, that's my boy Big Doug out there. Shouts out to him. Make sure you follow him if you haven't. If you haven't already, he's on Twitter at Doug McCray NFL. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter, all his YouTube, everything like that. So, man, shouts out to him. But, yeah, man, I believe he started it, but I know that I saw there was a heavy debate going on in Commanders Nation about who was going to have the most sacks. And I didn't really dive into who will have the most sacks and things like that, because I prefer to look at it as how many sacks will the person that has the least sacks between those two guys have? Like, what's the floor? Because say like For example, there's a scenario where maybe Chase Young goes crazy. He has like 12 sacks, but then Montez Sweat only has 2. That's cool, and I'm happy for Chase Young, and it sounds like he won the battle for that one contract that we may be giving out. Maybe the Montez Sweat ends up franchise tag in that scenario. But to me, I feel like I would be happier if instead of Chase Young having like 13 sacks and Montez Sweat only having 2 or 3, if say Chase Young has like 10 or 11 and Montez Sweat has like 9. I would be far happier with that. So to me, I feel like the thing that I would be more excited about is focusing on how many sacks will the guy with the least sacks between the two have at the end of this season. So that's my way of looking at it, but maybe I'm just being a try-hard or something. Also, Terry McLaurin was out here doing his thing with his Eastern Motors commercials. And I remember when I used to live in Maryland when I was really little, seeing those commercials on TV, the whole jingle and the melody and everything like that. So shouts out to the DMV for that. I wish I still got those commercials down here in Atlanta. But either way, while he was out there, people got a chance to interview him, and he basically mentioned how Marcus Kemp, the wide receiver, well, mostly, if anything, a special teams guy that came with Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs to come to the Commanders, how he's been a huge help in the Commanders wide receivers learning the Eric Bieniemy offense. Kemp was with Kansas City for 6 years, over 3 stints, and signed with Washington back in March. McLaurin said, quote, "We call him Coach Kemp. EB will be asking him like, that's right. Kemp knows everything. He knows the whole offense. He was in the system for like 6 or 7 years. So he's really been a big help for our group, not just for a consistency standpoint and providing a veteran presence, but he knows everything. So if I don't know, you may catch me looking back at him and he'll help me out," unquote. So we talked about this. We kind of inferred this. We guessed that Marcus Kemp will have that level of impact on the team, but it's so beautiful to hear that he actually does, because it wasn't an automatic that because he was under Eric Bieniemy for so long that he would come to the Commanders with Eric Bieniemy and automatically just take over like a veteran role, like a coach on the field type of role, the guy that helps everybody get more used to and adapting to Eric Bieniemy's system, how he coaches, the way he wants you to do certain things, running routes, all of that type of stuff, all of the little nuanced things that they seem like tiny things, but when you get in the game, they make big differences. They may be small things individually, but they add up to big things overall, have big impacts on whether you win a game or not. You win a certain possession, a first down, touchdowns, points, all of that type of stuff. So again, we kind of like hoped, and I a little bit assumed that Marcus Kemp would come and do that when he came over here, but it's great to hear that he actually is, because some veterans may just be stingy. First of all, he's here as basically a special teams guy. I don't really expect Marcus Kemp to go out there and really contribute anything to the offense anyway, like in a regular season game. I don't expect to see Marcus Kemp out there running routes and catching passes. Maybe he will, because he's like the only tall receiver we have now that Cam Sims is gone. But then again, a lot of the tight ends may just take over that niche of the team, the jump ball guys, the red zone threats, third down chain mover type of guys. Marcus Kemp may not get really any opportunities that way. He's really more of a special teams guy anyway. So the fact that he's contributing as an offensive coach, not just like a special teams coach, that's huge, man. So I'm really happy to hear that. And that's going to be the reason why he's more than likely going to make this team. He already has a special niche in special teams, whereas like we have a lot of guys that are really good at being gunners, going down there and bringing down the kick returner and punt returner and things like that. Marcus Kemp is an excellent punt return blocker, as you can see from the way that he blocked and helped the Chiefs win that Super Bowl with one of those returns where he like blocked like 2 or 3 people down the field and got the Chiefs in field position to end up winning that game. That's the type of impact he brings. That's the specific niche and special weapon, secret weapon that really maybe nobody else on this team provides. So he's gonna make this team because of that alone, but also being that on the field coach is gonna be huge as well. Just like Thomas Davis, we brought him over from Carolina to basically be an on-field coach that wasn't going to contribute much to the defense on the field wise, and that's the reason he made the team, just because of that. Marcus Kemp is gonna do that, along with the fact that he's gonna be a strong special teams contributor as well. I'm telling you, you're gonna notice a difference with him out there on punt return blocking, kick return blocking, and things like that. I mean, it's just interesting to even hear that Terry McLaurin, as great as he is, easily a top 10 receiver in the NFL, he still needs help with certain things learning Eric Bieniemy's offense. That's how different the offense is. And so I hope a lot of people are helping Sam Howell as well, because he's the quarterback, and if anything, he has the most to learn. So if Terry McLaurin's out here struggling like, hey, Marcus Kemp, what do I need to do right now in this certain situation? Help me out. Read my eyes. Help me type of thing before Eric Bieniemy gets ready to yell at me. If Terry McLaurin is having all of those struggles, he's just a receiver. Imagine what Sam Howell's going through. So if Sam Howell has a great grasp of the offense, that means he's just been putting in work. He's had no vacation. So that's going to be great for him. Moving on, Pro Football Focus ranked their top 10 offensive coordinators in the NFL, and Eric Bieniemy is 6th. So I forgot who it was that we talked about in the previous video when they talked about the best offensive coordinator hires this offseason, and they didn't even have Eric Bieniemy in the top 3. Then you have Pro Football Focus. Well, at least Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus has the top 10 offensive coordinators out of the entire NFL. Not even ones that were just recently hired, like the top 10 period. He has Ben Johnson number 1, Kellen Moore number 2, Bill O'Brien number 3, Shane Waldron number 4, Ken Dorsey number 5, and Eric Bieniemy number 6. And this is a really weird list. I think this is a very, very strange list. I feel like they left off a lot of great offensive coordinators, but it is what it is. I'm just happy to see Eric Bieniemy getting some love as the 6th best offensive coordinator out of the entire NFL. That's interesting. A lot of these guys are new guys, so I was looking like, is this just the best offensive coordinators that recently got hired? But some of these guys had their previous job that they're currently at, so I don't get it. This is weird. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comment section if I'm tripping. This is a really weird list. Now moving on, Bucky Brooks did his annual ranking top combos at all 11 key position groups. So he does the best duo of quarterbacks, the best duo of running backs. For quarterback, he has the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, Marcus Mariota. Running backs, he has Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon from Green Bay. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins. Tight ends, Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki. For the New England Patriots, offensive tackles, Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata from the Eagles. Interior offensive line, Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller from the Cleveland Browns. Edge rushers, Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith from the Cleveland. Dang, Zadarius Smith is on the Cleveland Browns. Wow, that's crazy. Off-ball linebackers, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw from the San Francisco 49ers. Cornerback, Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed from the New York Jets. That's interesting. Safeties, he has 3 of them, Quandre Diggs, Julian Love, and Jamal Adams from the Seahawks. And then interior defensive linemen, us, of course, with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, the best defensive tackle duo in the NFL. I completely agree. He also has, for each of these key position groups, the next 2. So the 2nd best and the 3rd best defensive tackle wise, he has Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave for the San Francisco 49ers is the 2nd best. And then Dexter Lawrence and Ashawn Robinson for the New York Giants is the 3rd best. But for number 1, he has Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. He said the Commanders logged their 6th consecutive non-winning season in 2022, but do not blame a defensive front loaded with first-round talent. Allen and Payne are rugged run stoppers with pass rush ability, combining for 19 sacks last season while helping suppress opponents on the ground. Washington's solid ranking in rushing yards allowed per game, 113.3, was 11th in the NFL, does not adequately reflect the tandem's dominance inside. It was more so, I guess you can argue, a linebacker problem. It is hard to find disruptive defensive tackles with impact potential against the run and the pass at the same time, which is why they are the best defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman duo in the entire NFL. A lot of us have been saying this. A lot of people have been disagreeing with us, like SportsCenter, ESPN, and things like that. But I'm glad Bucky Brooks sees the light. I'm very happy about that. And then also, Sharp Football Analysis ranked their top offensive lines. All 32 teams ranked. And then the Commanders are ranked 30th, like the 3rd worst. And they have like a point system. Like the Eagles are number 1 with a score of 97. The Lions are number 2 with a score of 95. Ravens 3rd with a score of 90. And it keeps going and going and going. We're 30th with a score of 6. Again, the Eagles are 97. The Cowboys are 8th with a score of 74. The Giants are 27th with a score of 23. We're 30th with a score of 6. Single digits, 1 singular digit 6. But at the same time, the Rams are right behind us with a score of 3, and the Titans are last with a score of 2. So, pray for the Titans, man. Pray for Malik Willis, Ryan Tannehill, and Will Levis, man. Golly. And then next up, Ian Harditz on Twitter said Sam Howell had more fantasy points from purely rushing production in 4 quarters than Desmond Ridder managed in 4 games. So I love to hear that. I know a lot of people are hyping up Desmond Ridder to be better even than Sam Howell. I mean, Chris Sims, a lot of these people out here ranking their quarterbacks have Desmond Ridder above Sam Howell. And I'm just amazed by that. So I'm absolutely happy that Sam Howell is getting a little bit of recognition out here. Even though they're using a fantasy point perspective on it, I'm telling you, Sam Howell will be better than Desmond Ridder. I think Sam Howell's going to be better than a lot of quarterbacks that a lot of people are ranking above him right now. Also, Pro Football Focus Fantasy, it's nothing like a specific stat of ranking, but they said name a quarterback that's going to shock people in 2023. And they had Sam Howell as the cover picture. And this is not like a rookie thing. This is not a second-year quarterback thing. This is all quarterbacks in the NFL. Who's going to shock people in 2023? Who's going to surprise people? And they literally have a picture of Sam Howell as the representative for the tweet. So, I mean, I guess they're saying that they have Sam Howell as their pick, but of course they just want people to debate in the comment section about who they would pick. Moving on, some disrespect from SportsCenter. They have a picture, like a graphic of the best cornerbacks in NFL history. They have Champ Bailey, of course, Georgia Bulldog, ex-Redskin as well, Deion Sanders, Dick Lane, Charles Woodson, Darrelle Revis, Ty Law. Ty Law used to be so fun in NFL Street. You can play him at quarterback, running back, wide receiver. That's my purest memory of Ty Law's existence, being like 5 years old playing NFL Street, and Ty Law was like the best character in the game, one of them at least, other than like Edgerrin James, of course, like the legendary guys. Then you have Richard Sherman, Jalen Ramsey, Aeneas Williams, Rod Woodson, and Patrick Peterson. Then there's like a question mark for other, and it's just crazy that they don't have Darrell Green. It's even so crazy that the most liked comment under this post had Darrell Green as his 8th best corner, only behind Deion Sanders, Darrelle Revis, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson, Night Train Lane, Mel Blount, and then you have Darrell Green. So for some reason, SportsCenter has 11 guys up there and don't have Darrell Green in it, but the most liked reply to that tweet has Darrell Green as the 8th best cornerback in NFL history. So SportsCenter, you got to do better, but it's cool though. More guys should get more recognition. I mean, it's just how the Redskins are. We're just severely underrated. And I just blame the fact that we haven't been good the past almost like 30 years, while a lot of our greats keep getting forgotten. Either way, moving on, Terry McLaurin was working on his Eastern Motors commercial stuff. So here's a couple of clips from there if you're interested. One clip is 5 seconds of him like practicing his acting, which is really cool. And then there's a 20-second clip of Darren M. Haynes just interviewing him about the whole thing. If you're interested, just stay tuned for that.
I think you guys need a little reminder for any car, any way, any means, like that.
Your acting skills are better now. Can I be in another commercial?
Of course. Darren, I think you need a little reminder to buy more cars from Easterns and to show more highlights of who? Me.
That's not in the script, man. Okay, I'll do it.
Now, next up, according to a source with knowledge of the situation, they don't believe the latest Dan Snyder news will hold up next week's vote, and things are still moving forward with this transition to the new group as planned. So there was some recent rumors, and I didn't even want to just talk about it or discuss it in the video because it just looked like shenanigans and like somebody was just putting out a rumor to just generate clicks and news because there was just literally nothing going on in football land for a while. So I just feel like if anything, it was just like clickbait to get people interested, but it was some report like Dan Snyder was threatening to ruin everything this late in the game, like to not allow this to go through or something like that. But apparently it's been reported that that's not true and everything should be good to go. Now, I'm not exactly sure if that means that Dan Snyder is not trying to ruin everything, but either way, all we care about as fans is that the sales should go through and we have nothing to worry about whether Dan Snyder's trying to ruin it or not. Even if he is, it's not going to get in the way. He is too late. He can't do anything about it. But I don't even think he is. I think he's one of the people that wants this to be over just as much as we do. So I'm ready to move on. But speaking of that, Dan Snyder will no longer be the owner of the Commanders by July 20th, which is 5 days away. And I just want to keep updating y'all on that on every chance that I get. Speaking of updates, again, training camp wise, the rookies report July 21st, the veterans report July 25th, and then we'll start to have open practices from there. I'm really excited. And then also our preseason schedule, again, just to remind y'all, the Cleveland Browns at Cleveland, 7:30 p.m. on Friday, August 11th, versus Baltimore Ravens after we have the joint practices with them, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday, August 21st, in FedEx Field, at FedEx Field, and then also at FedEx Field versus the Cincinnati Bengals, 6:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, August 26th, if any of y'all were curious or forgot or whatever. Also, some schedule notes from this article that NFL.com put out. We have the 8th toughest strength of schedule in 2023 based on our opponent's 2022 win percentage with a .535. Also, we have 6 games against 2022 playoff teams in a 7-game stretch from week 7s through 13, which is crazy. Also, we play on Thanksgiving at 4:30 p.m. against Dallas, of course, in Dallas. And also, our week 5 clash with the Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football is the only primetime game that we have this season. So just some random stats right there to update y'all on. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. That's interesting. And again, anything I find out, I want y'all to know as well. I want us to be a smarter, more educated fan base. That's why I do things. That's why I don't even want y'all to just agree with everything I think and say. I want y'all to do your own research, and that's why I always say, let me know in the comment section if you agree agree or disagree with any of my points, because I could be wrong. So my main goal of a lot of my videos, a lot of my content is just to make us a smarter fan base. So yeah, man, I just wanted to update y'all on that. Those just random little things right there for nothing more than just that. And then yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like in this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. As always, man, please support the channel. Stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to it. I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, names you scrolling on the screen. And again, like I said, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Do you agree or disagree with any of the points that were brought up by the articles, the analysts, the news reports, the tweets and stuff like that? Do you disagree with anything I say? All of that type of stuff. So let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything, and I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.